CAG2, we're going to be giving a 15 minutes nutrition workshop. The sport that we're choosing is football, tertiary level, and we're going to be focusing on the midfielder position as a team.
Okay, so first up, we will be talking about the physiological requirements of football. So football demands certain requirements like aerobic endurance and muscular endurance, which both requires a well-developed energy system to sustain the whole match. So there are three energy systems. First will be the aerobic system, secondly will be the anaerobic system, and thirdly we'll have ATP-PC system. So different roles in football requires for different energy systems. Okay, so next slide. So now I will be talking about more in depth on the three energy systems. First up will be the aerobic system. So the two characteristics of this aerobic system will be that durations of activity is longer than 2 minutes, and it provides sustained performance throughout the duration of the activity. So how is aerobic system applied to football? So football involves continuous movement for minimally 90 minutes without considering overtime, and the aerobic system fuels the movement done in the match, like jogging and running. So on average, football players cover roughly 8 to 13 kilometers during a 90-minute game. So it also applies to recovery phases of the match. So aerobic system helps in clearing lactic acid and reducing muscle fatigue. It also replenishes phosphocreatine storage to prepare the body for other activities. So next up we have the ATP-PC system. So there's two characteristics of this system. One will be it provides energy for movements lasting 3 to 10 seconds, and it fuels very short bursts of activity. So how will this ATP-PC system be applied to football? So first, players will often engage in short and fast sprints on the field when trying to counter-attack, fast breaks, or dribbling. So players will also require frequent explosive actions such as jumping to hit the ball or tackling to gain possession. So next up, we have the anaerobic glycolytic system. So the two characteristics of this system, one will be that it provides energy for movements lasting for 10 seconds to 2 minutes, and it also generates ATP through breakdown of glucose and oxygen. So how will this anaerobic system apply to football? So firstly, that during pressing, players would often engage in very close marking and this requires energy for sustained actions and that lasts for 30 seconds to 1 minute. So next, when fast breaks happen, players will need to sprint to exploit gaps, which typically require 20 to 60 seconds of continuous running. Okay, next slide. So now I will be talking about the nutritional requirements of football. So soccer matches last for roughly 90 minutes, and players must have enough energy and glycogen to last the entire match. Players must follow a proper nutritional plan to promote energy production and muscle recovery, increase performance, and injury prevention. So the three key requirements include carbohydrate, protein, and fats. So first up, carbohydrates. Carbohydrates is the primary source of energy for high intensity anaerobic exercises. In this case will be the football match. So AMDR recommendations of carbohydrates will be 45 to 65% of total daily calorie intake, 6 to 10 grams per kg of carbohydrates intake daily, and some examples of carbohydrates to consume will be sweet potato, vegetables, and rice. So next, we have protein. Mind the typo. Protein is essential for muscle growth, repair, and recovery after training or matches, and typically taken 1 to 2 hours after exercise. So EMDR recommendations will be 10 to 35% of total daily calorie intake and 1.4 to 1.7 grams per kg of protein intake daily. So some examples of protein to consume are lean meat like chicken and fish, eggs, and protein shakes. Okay, so lastly we have fats. Fats provide a secondary source of energy for prolonged endurance-based activity, in this case a 90 minutes football match. So AMDR recommendations will be 20 to 35% of total daily calorie intake and below 10% of saturated fats. So some examples of fats to consume will be fish and nuts.
So now I'll be talking about the dietary challenges characteristic. So I've listed out 5, which are underfilled, carbohydrates, snacking, hydration, as well as some nutritional knowledge. So next. So for first up, we have underfilling. So football is actually a very physically demanding. Hence, some football athletes may not consume enough calories to cover up the calories expenditure before the training starts. Underfilled, which may lead them to being underfilled. Hence, there are 2 issues which may cause when they're underfilled. One is performance and another one is health issue. So for performance issue-wise, some of the psychological issues that will affect them are reduced energy level, leading them to be very lethargic or like having difficulties in concentrating when playing a match, as well as some physical issues are increased injuries such as strains, cramps, and sprain. As for the health issues, there will be poor, inadequate nutrients, which can lead them to weakness immune as well as chronic diseases. At the same time, they may have lack of protein, hence it may be difficult to repair and strengthen muscle after they are injured. And lastly, we have hormone imbalance, as they may be slow in metabolism. Your body has to perceive it to test for the survival. So like as in they will go for into a thing that's called survival mode. And then when they go to this survival mode, it will help to break down muscle tissues for energy, which result in muscle loss, as well as hormones also can cause insulin imbalance. Next, we have carbohydrate. As some tertiary athletes may say to eat more proteins, hence they could grow bigger muscle or have stronger kicks. As from the chart below, more than 90% of them will prioritize protein over carbs. However, the main primary source of energy should come from the carbohydrate itself, as carbohydrate is the main source of energy. Hence, lack of carbohydrates may cause reduced performance as well as mental fatigue, whereby you lack of concentrations. Next. Next up, we have snacking. As most tertiary students have their training at night, which are close to dinner time, hence some footballer may resort to eating snacks when they are hungry from a nearby convenience shop like Cheers or 7-Eleven. Hence, they may do something called unethical snacking, which may cause a sudden sugar spike, which lead to a quick burst of energy, then followed by a crash, which make the athlete fatigued and sluggish towards the later part of the training. Another thing is most of the food contain high in saturated fats and sugars. It may cause heart diseases, as such as heart failure and coronary heart disease, and also lastly weight gains. So next up we have hydration. As where athletes do not know how much water to drink, as from the research above, we can tell that most athletes or football athletes are hyperhydrated state before they go for training. So this would hence this will help increase the risk of injuries such as muscle cramp, as well as heat injuries, which are heat exhaustion or even heat stroke. It can cause slow in performance, which may the athletes have slow decision making. At the same time, it will reduce the blood flow to the muscle, which may cause muscle weakness. And when the muscle weakness is caused, it will decrease the endurance as well as having pain and discomfort in the muscles. So next up, we have overly hydrated, which is also known as water intoxications. So this is caused by having too much water, which they dilute the sodium and it happens commonly during the match. As athletes may have extended playtime or fear of like dehydration when they are in the court. Hence, athletes may suffer from swelling of cells, which when you drink too much water, and it will cause some neurological issues such as dizziness, confusion, or even loss of consciousness. And also some of the health risks that may affect is seizures or even worst case scenario death. So next up, we have the lack of nutrition. Sorry. So we will go back to lack of knowledge. So most tertiary athletes are unsure of what they need to eat. As football athletes, this may cause an issue where athletes eat the wrong amount of thing and can lead to several health diseases as well as not reaching up to their optimal performance.
So now is the nutritional guidelines. So on the left, we see that according to the Basa Innovation Hub, this is the nutritional guideline where it is a cycle of what you do in your daily routine. So from what you eat to what you do before your games or trainings, and what you eat, for example, and after the game, what do you eat to recover. And on your right is a guideline from the UEFA expert group statement to show that how much macronutrients you have to consume in a day, uh, and the key micronutrients to support your body functions to have sufficient energy before any trainings or after any training to replenish your body. So before we get into the strategies to how we could eat before, during, and after your training, these are some facts of football where what the body demands. So in a football match, your heart rate averages around 85% of the maximal heart rate. And during matches or training, there's an average relative exercise intensity at 70% of maximal oxygen intake, which is equivalent to 1,300 to 1,600 calories. And carbohydrate usually contributes to around 60 to 70% of your energy supply during the game. And a full 90-minute match estimates to around 3,500 calories energy expenditure during matches.
Okay, so for before training, the nutritional strategies to meet the recommendation. So we have our carbohydrate focus because it's very important as it's the primary source of fuel for high intensity exercises like football, which is already previously said in the earlier slides. So carbohydrate is recommended to take 1 to 4 hours before to allow digestion and nutrient absorption. So examples include low GI complex carb foods such as whole grain, pasta, rice, and sweet potato. We also have to include protein, even though protein is not a source of fuel, but it also helps with the muscle mass and help to build muscle mass and repair muscle damage. So it is important to include like lean meat, fish, dairy, and eggs, but this is for training. If it's for competition, then it is important to avoid animal protein. So we go for whey protein. And for fats, we cannot forget fats. We have to take 20 to 35% of our total calories. We have to include fats. Examples include omega-3 unsaturated fats such as mackerel and walnuts. And lastly, we have hydration. Hydration is important because it regulates our body heat and avoid muscle cramps and dehydration. So we would recommend plain water before training and electrolytes or diluted fruit juice if preferred. So during training, it is important if your training lasts more than 90 minutes to include carbohydrate replenishment, so such as like carbohydrate gels and fruits. So this is to maintain your glucose level to avoid fatigue and also to avoid decreasing your performance. And for hydration, it's very important every 10 to 20 minutes to rehydrate, include sports drink and plain water. So this is for after training. After the training, within the 20 minutes anabolic window, is very important to consume carbohydrates and protein. So this is important to replenish glycogen stores and help with your repair with your damaged muscle fibers, which will also aid in recovery. So it's important for your carbohydrates to include high GI foods, rice or pasta and white potato. So it is important for protein to include lean protein such as chicken or fish, which is already mentioned just now, or you can also have protein powder. So For fats, also important because it increases repair, increase recovery, hypertrophy, and insulin release. And hydration is very important to rehydrate as soon as possible after training. 1.5 to 2.5 kilograms per body weight loss, because that is the amount lost during exercise. And rehydration is important because it replaces fluid losses during training and replenishes the electrolyte losses.
So lastly is what is the strategies and advices that we can give to the RP to the players. So considering that all of the players are from RP, they also have different school hours between the days as they might be from different courses, etc. And the training loads of players might be different as they have club players in the team, and there's also non-club players. And since they are all students and it's a school, so there's limited budget. So firstly, we could recommend that meal preps is one of the strategies that they can do, as finding food to meet their macro and micronutrients may be difficult, as these foods have uncertain quality and quantity to their ingredients, so they could not calculate how much amount of carbohydrates and protein they are going to consume. And these meal preps can be controlled as they can measure how much consumption of each macronutrients they are going to consume. And they could also uh, make it to their personal preferences of what they would like to eat. It's also more affordable when cooking in bulks, because as students, budget is limited. So cooking for lunch, breakfast, and maybe dinner could be more affordable. And lastly, during rest days, they could increase their intake of salmon, tuna, and mackerel, as they are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which have anti-inflammatory effects, decreasing muscle soreness after the games or trainings, but also improving range of motion and peak power capacity. During rest days, they should also maintain protein intake to facilitate muscle repair and development. And lastly, to always stay hydrated and drink plenty of fluids and electrolytes.
Okay, so now we are open to any questions and answers. Q&A, yes.
Okay, I have a question. So, how do I keep track of my nutrition?
Okay, so one way to take note of your nutrition is to use the MyFitnessPal apps, where they can help you track how much carbohydrates, proteins you taken. Another way is to use the nutritional facts from whatever thing you cook at the back to know how much nutrients you have actually eat during the day.
Okay, thank you.
Next, why hydration is important?
Okay, so hydration is important because, as mentioned just now, it's important to replenish and avoid dehydration, especially after a game and during a game, so that we can avoid fatigue and performance to decrease. And then this also helps to reduce the cramps that you have during your game. Okay, so we'll wrap up our nutritional workshop Thank you for listening. Bye.